to you all right now, okay? Om Gajananam Bhutaganati Sevitam Kapita Jambu Phalasara Pakshitam Umasutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Sankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Happy New Year to all and welcome to SanGita program session number 13. We are continuing with chapter 2. And as usual, we're going to give a quick review of what we did last week. We continued with chapter 2 and studied verses from 55 to 62. So we have 10 more verses left. And in the last session, we heard Lord Krishna answering Arjuna's question on the qualities of a person with steady wisdom. And he also explained the traits of a yogi and how to acquire them. So in today's session number 13, we're going to start from verse 63, where Lord Krishna is continuing and he describes the stages which lead to misery and eventually the destruction of a person in life. He also explains further how does a yogi behave in different situations and what are the benefits of steady wisdom. So with that, I hope to be able to conclude chapter 2 today. So let's proceed with the verse 63. Krodad bhavati sammohaha sammohat spriti vibhramaha spriti brumshat buddhinasho buddhinasat pranasyati. We know the meaning of krodha. Krodha means anger. And krodhat means from anger. From anger, bhavati, bhavaha comes, is. Sammohaha is the delusion. And from delusion, that is sammohat, spriti vibhramaha leads to loss of memory temporarily. Spriti brumshat, from the loss of memory, buddhi nashaha, you lose your intellect, the thinking power, the power of discrimination. And buddhi nashat, from the destruction of intelligence, pranasyati, the person perishes. So these are the stages that happen from anger. And anger is an emotional state that varies in intensity. It can start from a little irritation to a full-blown rage. How does it come? From an obstructed desire, which is called kama. It arises in various forms. And it is of different types. And you can interpret it in different forms. There are so many words for it. Annoyance, irritation, aggravation, agitation, exasperation, frustration, furious, hostile, offended, outraged, peeved off. In this country, they say pissed off, resentment, rage, wrath. There's so many words in English for just describing anger in different forms. You know, even if I raise my voice slightly at home, it may be perceived to be a form of resentment or anger. Members of the family don't like it. Nobody likes it, in fact. So generally, you have to keep the voice low, except when you're talking to in a public forum. So it's difficult to control this emotion called anger. But I wrote a book titled Anger Management, Lessons from the Ancient. It's sold through Amazon.com and some publishers. So when the mind is gripped with anger, the sense of discrimination goes away. Sammohaha. It's lost. We see people striking even a close relative or a friend. It's a kind of insanity. Now, when I came first to the US, my younger grandson was just about 4 years old, and I used his father's, my son-in-law's computer, and he had told his son not to use it or not to touch it. So he came rushing to me, Tata, don't touch it. Appa will get mad. So the word here is mad. Really, in this country, they use the word mad to describe anger, and which is, I think, correct. And when you are angry, for some time, you lose memory. It's like a virus which is destroying your memory as in a computer. Sometimes it can make the computer crash. My computer has crashed a couple of times. So this is something which is leading to various undesirable forms. Once, long ago in the 60s, I traveled from Pune to Chennai in Express. Bombay Express used to call it, Madras Express. At the night time, there was a soldier who had come from the war fields, China, Indo-China aggression at the time. Probably was injured or something. He was traveling in a reserved compartment and he had no place to sit. Nobody gave him a seat. Everybody drove him off. And suddenly I heard shrieks of noise adjacent cubicle. He went and shot a person at close range, pulled the chain of the train and walked out in darkness. So that is the power of anger, which can suddenly erupt like a volcano, leading to killing someone. And it is something which must be constrained. Even sannyasis do get angry at times, but they are better at control. Paramacharya used to observe Maunam if he is upset over anything. But everybody cannot become a saint. What will happen to the world if everybody becomes a monk? So anger is something which has to be controlled. And these are the stages which lead from krodhat, from anger. The lesson here is we have to learn to control anger because of the destructive effect. Going further, ragvadvesha vivuktaistu vishayan indriyacharan atma vasyirpideyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Ragadvesha viyuktaihi. Ragascha, dveshascha, viyuktaihi. You have to split it. Raga is attachment or attraction, which we talked about earlier also. Dvesha is hate, repulsion. So there are two opposite forces, attraction and repulsion. So when you talk about Raga, Dvesha, Viyuktaishe. Viyuktai means free from. Vishayan refers to sense objects. Indriyaihi, Indriya, of course, senses. Indriyaihi means by the senses. By the senses. Charan, moving. Atma Vashyaihi. Vashya means to be under control, under self-restraint. Having the senses obeying to you, obedient senses. Atma Vashyaihi refers to one who has an obedient set of senses. Whatever he tells the sense, it obeys. We say, don't eat that food, the sense will obey it, even though it may be very attractive. Bide Atma is the self-controlled man. Prasadam. Prasadam is Lord's mercy. Provides you with peace. In temples also they give what is called prasadam. Of course that is different. But here, that is also a mercy of the Lord. But here, it is a mental state. The Lord's mercy providing you with peace. Adhigachati attains. The self-controlled man who moves among objects which are really attracting, with the senses under restraint, and free from their attraction and repulsion, eventually he attains peace. From verse 58, Lord Krishna is talking about how to make a wise person a person of steady wisdom. From prajnaha to sthiti prajnaha. There is a difference. There are a lot of people who are wise, but the wisdom is not steady, it fluctuates. So what are the key steps he's talking about? One, of course, is control of the five senses. The second is disciplining it. What is called samaha. Nipping out all those stray rubbish thoughts which come into your mind that may sneak into the mind. And three, listening to the scriptures, what is called Shravanam. That is why Vedas are called Shruti. What was heard, they were not written down, but they were heard and experienced by the rishis. That's why they're called Shruti. And the smritis which come from the memory and being parted with, that is called smriti. Manusmriti is one like that. So, when you discipline the mind and listen to scriptures, what happens? Like gold coming as an ore from the earth, and then it gets refined by various heating processes. It's only by heating your mind with those kind of scriptures, Shravanam, it eventually gets purified. So process is not easy. It is not something which people really love it because it goes through a very hard process. So Adi Shankara comments, perception means Shruti. And for its validity, it is not dependent on anything else. It is inference is Smriti, remembrance. So there are so many sutrams. When you say scriptures, Gita is one. Vedas and Upanishads. Sutrams. What are sutrams? Sutrams are those scriptures which focus on a particular topic and help you to understand that topic clearly. Like Brahma Sutram. Brahma Sutram, which was composed by Vedavyasa, which is a combination of Gita and also Bhagavatam in it. It has got 4 chapters. The first one talking about what is Brahman. What is Brahman? The second, it talks about the qualities, the traits of Brahman. Third, it talks about how to attain it, the steps required for it. And last and final, fourth one, talks about what are the benefits of that. So these are the 4 steps in which Brahma Sutram. You have also Patanjali's Yoga Sutram. It talks all about yoga. Want to do an asana, how to do it. We also have Bhakti Sutram. Narada composed it. So these are all scriptures. One lifetime is not enough for anybody to go through all these scriptures. They are so vast. But at least some of them you can do, like you are presently doing Gita. And then after this study, what it comes is some mananam. Mananam is, in fact, the word mantra comes from that. I think I mentioned before. Manana trayate iti mantraha. The one which protects you, tra is the word for protection, which protects you, repeated thinking of a slokam or a verse is called mantra. So the process manam, periodically recollecting on the knowledge that you have got as often as possible. And the mananam removes the doubts in your mind. Now this process has got a certain name in Sanskrit called nididhyasanam. The deep contemplation process, perhaps most difficult for anyone, as it needs to be done for a long time and very, very firmly. You need to have your suitable place, a certain posture, a certain environment, peaceful. They all help greatly in performing what is called nididhyasanam. It is the deepest contemplation of the self. That's why you find rishis and munis lived in isolated places near river banks. If you see Adi Shankara's picture, which was drawn by Ravi Verma, you will find him sitting near a river bank with these 4 disciples sitting around him with a tree nearby and very quiet. So this is the stage in which it goes through, ultimately attaining peace. Going further, verse 65. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyo upajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhihi paryavatishtate. Prasade, in the mercy of the Lord, in that peace, sarva dukkhanam. Sarva, as you know, is all, and dukkhanam, pains or sorrows. Hanihi is destruction. And as you go along, you are going to pick up a lot of Sanskrit words. And remember them, they'll be used many times in the future also. So once you learn it, it's easy for you to follow the subsequent verses. Asya, his. Upajayate, come from the word ja, to be born. Jananam. Upajayate means arises, gets born. Prasanna chetasaha, happy-minded, very happy, tranquil. He, for, because. Ashu, very soon. You know, some Bengalis keep the name Asutosh Mukherjee. You must have heard of the name Asutosh. What does it mean? Asutosh means one who becomes pleased very quickly. Who is that? Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva gets pleased very quickly. So he's called Asutosh. So that is a name very common in Bengal. So next time you meet with one of your friends having the name, ask him what is the meaning. Asutosh, very soon. Buddhihi, intellect. Paryavatishtate, pari plus ava plus tishtate. There is sandhi there, which means well-established, steady. What is the benefit of the final peace, which we saw in the earlier verse? In that peace, all pains and sorrows are destroyed. For the intellect, the buddhi of the tranquil-minded soon becomes steady. See, the urge for happiness is natural. It's like thirst to our body. We need it. And Shastras do not prohibit us from attaining happiness through materials. Dharmartha kama moksham. Artha and kama are together. It is permitted, but not unclean or illegal. The artha kamam should be legitimate and clean. That is what the Shastras are telling. They are not preventing you from building a nice home or having a car. No. Lead a simple life and don't be led by greed. As Mahatma Gandhi said, there is everything available for anybody's need, but all are not enough for the greed. So the greed is the one which really ruins many people. So most people, they look for what is called quick fixes. More money and more luxury and more cars, more televisions and so on. And you find there is no limit to it. It keeps on increasing. And they think it can solve their problems. External world does not solve your sorrows. Reading books and gathering knowledge is all good, but still, it may not really help you unless the mind is reinforced with spiritual growth. So once again, Krishna here emphasizes that a balanced state of mind, equanimity, helps to mitigate all sorrows. There are two benefits out of this. Sarva dukkhanam hanihi, which means the destruction of all sorrows. And two is prasanna chetasaha. When the mind is calmer, buddhihi parivashishtate. Self-knowledge. Self-knowledge becomes stronger and well-rooted, grounded, anchored. So by God's grace, when we experience a higher taste of divine bliss, the agitation for sensual happiness is extinguished. There's a story of a person who was really meditating for a long time, And God appeared before him and asked him what he wants. And he said, well, I want to be very rich, very wealthy, and enjoy life in all possible ways. Material desires. But God said, you don't have that chance at all in this birth. But next birth, I will give you that. According to your karma, you are not entitled for it this birth. Then that man asked, what if I take sannyasam? It's considered to be next birth for people. Yes, that's a good idea. You take sannyasa, it is next birth. And you can get all that. So immediately he became a sannyasi. The moment he became sannyasi, he realized his folly, that a sannyasi should not have those desires. So it was probably too impulsive desire that he became a sannyasi and lost everything in the process. But here sannyasis don't need anything and they need to only have that tranquil mind. And that is a divine bliss for them. The agitation for the sensual happiness is gone. And once that hankering for pleasures, material pleasures, ceases, he goes beyond all suffering and the mind becomes tranquil. You find a lot of people, particularly those who retired, who want that state. They have done all the duties and today there are people who come and ask me, well, I want to do something useful. I'll contribute to the society, volunteer, study the scriptures. That way you attain peace. Going further, we're going to be in verse 66. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya na chayuktasya bhavana na chabhavayataha shantir shantasya kutaha sukham. See, knowledge of the unsteady, buddhir yuktasya, buddhi ayuktasya. Yuktam means steady, ayukta is the opposite, buddhihi ayuktasya, knowledge of the unsteady. There is no knowledge of the self unsteady, nasti. What does it mean? Knowledge does not arise for somebody who has an undisciplined mind, who keeps wavering. It has to be a pointed one. Na chayuktasya, na cha ayuktasya, of the unsteady, bhavana. Bhavana is meditation. Bhavam solram ilya, bhavam. Na cha bhavayataha, na and cha, not cha. And abhavayataha, unmeditative, shanti asantasya, shantihi plus asantasya, peace and of the peaceless, asya shantasya. Kutaha, where is sukham, happiness? There is no knowledge. The knowledge does not arise for the undisciplined or unsteady one. And to the unsteady, no meditation is possible. Its mind itself is wavering. How can you meditate? Contemplation is not possible for the undisciplined. And you go in many meetings, when you talk something, people, their mind is wandering. What did they say? Oh, we don't know it. And to the unmeditative, there can be no peace. And to the man who has no peace in his mind, how can there be happiness? There are people enjoying a lot of luxuries, but then they are what I call miserable in comfort. They may have the best of mansions, but inside the mind, they are miserable. They won't tell you, but confidentially some people will tell you. All these I've got. My son doesn't listen to me. My daughter doesn't listen to me. And I am miserable, even though I've got $2 million in the bank. So a person who has undisciplined mind, he cannot meditate, nor can he really attain happiness. So for him, where is the happiness is a question here asked for by Krishna. It reminds me of a very nice, Subhashitam, which Paramacharya once asked in Sanskrit college long ago. Artha Turanam na gurur na bandhuhu Shudha Turanam na ruchihi na pakvaha Vidya Turanam na sukham na nidra Kama Turanam na bhayam na lajja. It's a beautiful Subhashitam. Artha Turanam, one who is pursuing wealth. Na guruhu na bandhu. He doesn't know any guru or relations. Shudha Turanam. Shudha means hunger. Na ruchihi na pakvam. See, when somebody is hungry, he doesn't know about the taste, nor whether it is cooked fully or not. When it is hungry, he just keeps eating it. Vidya Turanam, na sukham na nidra. One who pursues vidya, knowledge, he has neither comfort nor sleep either. You see people burning the midnight oil, as they call it. They're very passionate about a subject. For them, they will not mind discomfort, nor would they really go to sleep. Even little children do that, when they are pursuing something, they refuse to sleep, they'll continue to do it. And lastly, Kama Turanam na bhayam na lajja. Those who are really after desires, they know no fear or shame even. Sense of shame. So, the people with this kind of mind, they will not find happiness. That is the gist of this. Going further, verse 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidiyate tasya harati pragyam vayurnava vivambasi. Indriyanam, of the senses. He, charatam. Charatam, chara is moving, wandering. Yanmano anuvidiyate. Yet, there is a sandhi there. Yat is which, manaha, mind, anuvidiyate, follows. Tadasya, tat plus asya, that his, harati, carries away, pragyam, intelligence or power of discrimination. Here again sandhi, it's a long word, vayuhu plus navam, vayur nava, vivambasi. Vayu, if you know, it's wind. Navam is a boat. Iva, like ambasi, amba is water. Water has got 68 names in Sanskrit. Apo is water. Niru, water. Jalam, water. Ambasi, on the water. So for the mind which follows in the wake of the wandering senses, it carries away the discrimination as the wind carries a boat on the water. See the analogy here. As the wind carries away the boat on the water. So here, Krishna is asserting what he said earlier about sense control, that if you allow the mind to wander, what happens? it will drift like a boat in the wind. And that is to be avoided. You should anchor it. Boats are anchored, otherwise they will drift away. So, anchoring the mind is what is required. Further, next verse. Tasmat yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvasah indriyani indriyarte abjastasya prajna pratishtita. Tasmat, therefore, yasya, whose, mahabaho means, bahu means arms. Even in Hindi you say that. Mighty armed, referring to Arjuna. Arjuna had mighty arms. Nigrihitani, restraint. Sarvasaha is all round, completely. Indriyani, the senses. Indriyarthebhyaha, from the sense object. Tasya, his prajna, knowledge. Pratishtita is fixed, steady. Therefore, O mighty armed Arjuna, his knowledge is steady, whose senses are completely restrained from sense object. Remember the picture of the tortoise I showed you last time? This is again re-emphasizing that point, that the knowledge becomes steady when senses are completely restrained. And one should really anchor it. Going further, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jakarti samyami yasyam jakrati bhutani sa nisha pasyato munehe. So here, Ya nisha. Ya nisha means night. The people who wander in the night are called nisachara samuhu. These rakshasas or evil spirits, they are said to wander during the night, so they are called nisachara samuhu. So here Krishna is actually glorifying, he's paying kudos to the person of a steady wisdom, Chita Prajnaha. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam. Ya, which nisha, night, sarva bhutanam. What is night to all beings? Tasyam, in that, jakarti, jagrata is awake, samyami, the self-control, yasyam, in which jagrati are awake. Bhutani, again, all beings, sa, that is, nisha, night, pasyato, one who sees or introspects, munehe, for the sage. That which is night to all beings, that time the self-controlled man is awake, alert. When all beings are awake, that is the night for the sage who sees. The process doesn't attempt to change the man completely. It attempts to change the way we look at things. The world is same. You cannot change it completely, beyond one's control. But you can change the way you look at it. If you look through a dark glass, everything appears dark. If you look through a blue glass, it appears blue. So that glass which changes the appearance of outside, that is what is important. You have to have the right glass. Because of the change in perspective, the responses are also totally different. In fact, it's just opposite to what all normal human beings respond. So Kanchi Periva is giving one example of a huge elephant made out of wood. Says when the child sees it, it gets scared. Oh my God, big elephant. It tells the dad, look at these elephants. But the dad knows that it is made of wood. It is not a real elephant. The child thinks it is real, but the wise man, the wise dad, knows that it is not real, it is only made of wood. So the wise man sees it differently, the real one, while those who are unwise, who are not knowledgeable, they think it and they see it differently. So that is the one, a point which is pointed out here. The steady-minded person looks at things differently. Not that he is a different man altogether. He sees things differently. So it is just a question of changing your attitude, the way you look at things. That is the one which leads you ultimately to steady wisdom. Going further, the next verse 70. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapaha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantir mapnoti na kamakami. There are 4 lines in this verse. What it means, apuryamanam is filling from all sides. Chalam is one which moves. Achalam is opposite. Like Arunachalam, you have in Tiruvannamalai, the mountain which doesn't move. Achala Pradishtam, firmly fixed. Samudram, everybody knows, is ocean. Apaha, here see, the word apaha means waters. Pravishanti, pravesham, enters, yadvat as tadvat so, kabaha desires, yam whom, pravishanti again enters, sarveha all, sahahi, shantim apnoti attains peace, na not kama kami, one who is full of desires. Who attains peace? One who attains peace is all the desires enter as waters enter the ocean, which fill from all sides, remains unmoved, but not the man who is full of desires. So here it is the glory of the ocean. It's ever full. It's an analogy. Every river is born out of it. They eventually join it. So Ganga, which has its origin from Himalayas, when it starts, at the point of Gangotri, it starts with a roar. Paramacharya gives this example of how initially people start roaring. When they start, like a river starts roaring. And as it moves, it becomes calmer and calmer. And towards Diamond Harbor in Kolkata, when it starts joining the ocean, in fact, the ocean welcomes it. The mother welcomes the child, and at that time it becomes very calm. So he attains peace in which the desires enter as waters enter the ocean, so calm. You see any river which is entering the ocean, you don't even know how it is entering. But when you start, see Kaveri or Ganga, any river which start, it will be roaring. So likewise, the person who is full of desires make all the noises. But eventually, he attains peace when those desires, all the roar is stopped. Going further, explanation is for the verse 70 and now 71. Vihaya kamanyahaya sarvan pumams charati nisprhaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madhikachati. Vihaya, she's abandoning. Visrija is also abandoned. Kaman, desire, that sarvan, all puman, charati, moves, nisprigaha, without any longing, nirmamaha, without a sense of ownership, without ego, nirahankaraha, without egoism, saha he, shantim adhigachati, attains peace. Puman, Puman is, I said man here, but what kind of man? He refers to Jnani here, one who is nispraha, not dependent on any external factors to be happy. He does not reject them. He does not physically renounce them, but he handles all of them. He handles it with intelligence and he enjoys all those relationships, but he is not attached. He is not attached or dependent on them. I give you an analogy of water on top of a lotus leaf appears like globules. They float around. They are very close to the leaf. You think they enjoy being on the leaf, but then it is detached. It is not affixed in any way. So that man attains peace who abandons all the desires, moves about without longing, without the sense of me, I own it, and without the sense of ego. We are coming to almost the conclusion of the chapter 2. This is the last verse. Yesha brahmistitihi partha nainam prapya vimuhyati stitva asya mantakalepi brahma nirvana brichati. Oh Arjuna, he's calling him Partha. Yesha, this Brahmi of Brahman, Sitihi, the state of being a Brahman, the state of Brahman. Na, not, Enam, this Prapya, having obtained, Vimuhyati is deluded. Stitva, being established, Asyam in this, Antakale, at the end of life, Api even, Brahma Nirvanam, means oneness with Brahman, Prichati attains. So this is the eternal seed of the Brahmic seed, O Arjuna. Attaining this, nobody is deluded, nobody is bewildered. And being established, even at the time of death, Antakale, one attains oneness with Brahman. This is the concluding part, concluding verse of Lord Krishna. And it says beautifully about what is the ultimate, the attainment of Brahman. Having said that, I'd like to give you a very quick overview of chapter 2, a summary, so that you remember what we said. The second chapter of this Gita is entitled the Sankhya Yoga, as you know, which contains the essence of Bhagavad Gita. I mentioned it, second chapter is the most important, second and 18th, I would say. And this chapter, you can see there are 4 parts in it. The first part, first topic we talked about is Arjuna Charanagati, which is from verse 1 to 10. The second part is talking about Yoga, Jnana Yoga, otherwise called Sankhya Yoga, which is from verse 11 to 38. The third part is Karma Yoga, 39 to 53. And the last, the fourth part, is about Sthita Prajna, verse 54 to 72, which concludes it. So Arjuna Charanagati, which is the first one, As you know, Arjuna suffered with this problem of samsara, ragaha, sokaha, mokaha, which I mentioned, attachment, sorrow, and conflict or delusion in his mind. And he's not able to solve the problem, so he feels helpless and goes to Krishna seeking surrender. Finally chooses to surrender completely to him. Krishna assumes now the role of Guru, Jagat Guru, gives us the lesson. Humility and complete surrender is what is required to a Guru if you want to find solutions. Find a Guru, find a Guru of your liking, and then you surrender to him completely, you will automatically get the solutions. The second part which we talked about is SanGita Yoga. Krishna discusses the nature of every individual. He talks about the Jiva Swarupam or Atma. And as I said, he adopted multi-pronged approach, philosophical, ethical, and social approaches to persuade Arjuna to go and fight, which is his duty. So he talks a lot about Atma and the qualities of Atma. The 6 qualities, remember, Nityaha, Satyaha, Sarvagataha, Aprameyaha, Akarta, Abhokta. He is not the doer. There is no activity for him. And there is no fruits also. Nirvikaraha. All that he talks about in those verses. And thirdly, in Karma Yoga, he says it is fail-proof. Krishna, you don't have to really believe about Atma, but take proper action. Enjoy what you do and follow Dharma as your duty. And have proper attitude. Doing action as offering to the Lord. And receiving the result of the prasada, not really expecting too much out of it. Whatever comes, you accept it. Do your duty, do not expect the fruits, he emphasizes. And last portion about Sthita Prajna, which we talked about during the last 2 lessons. Not only about intellectual knowledge, but emotional strength to face life. And discusses the Lakshanam and Sadhanam, as you say. Lakshanam is the traits, characteristics of a Sthita Prajna, and what are the ways to approach and how to acquire them. You know, the traits he mentioned, freedom from desires and samatvam, equanimity and remain, freedom from raga dvesha, freedom from ego, all that turbulences caused by anger doesn't affect him. Those are the traits. Methods he mentioned about Indriya Nigraha, mastery of senses, Mano Nigraha, mastery of the mind through discipline, and Nididhyasanam, which I mentioned in this class. So eventually Krishna concludes this chapter by comparing a jnani, a steady person, steady wisdom person, to an ocean. When rivers join and they are full, and pours water into the ocean, and the ocean gets filled up. It is Purnam. So this is the conclusion of chapter 2. And I'm going to conclude today because I'm going to be away in India for some time, almost 2 months. And I'm not sure about the state of internet in India. We will start chapter 3 sometime later, but I will let you know when. But till the time, revise this. Now, how to test the efficacy of what you have read so far? And why is Gita so important? Let me conclude with the thoughts of Kanchi Paramacharya, whom I revere. He said he was thinking about this. Why should Gita be so popular and not the other scriptures? Like Brahma Sutram I mentioned. Brahma Sutram also contains a lot of Upadesham, or what you talk about, right? But Gita, he says, became popular because of the environment in which it was taught. You know, typically you see the Upadesham or the rishis advising you, or you are contemplation or meditating, you go and seek a a place which is calm. As I mentioned, Adi Shankara is shown with 4 disciples sitting in a riverside, quiet environment. But here it's not like that. Here the situation is in a battlefield. You don't know what's going to happen the next moment. Your head could be chopped off. At that point of time, this Upadesham comes. So he says Gita is something unique. That is why it has gained popularity. And it is made out by Lord himself in such simple way that everybody can follow. It's been translated over 65 languages. So no wonder it's very popular. You learn not only the philosophy and the spirit of it, but you also learn Sanskrit along with it. If you want to study any other scriptures, these words will help you. So how do I test the benefit, whether I've got something out of it or not? I'll give you a simple test. You can do it yourself. You know, you have to draw a baseline to know whether you have progress or not. The baseline being how many times you get upset in a day, quantity, and how frequently. And you got to note it. Huh? Somebody has to be the record keeper. After going through this, what happens? Has it come down? The number of times you get upset? The frequency, has it come down? Also the quality. What is the intensity of the upset? You flare up and you throw things out of anger, or you are just mildly angry, you're upset, but you are nurturing it inside your mind. The intensity, has it come down? If so, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much? Likewise, the rise and fall of the upset. You know, sometimes people get angry very quickly, just like that. But they also cool off immediately. So here, the rise and fall, how quick or how delayed they are. These are some of the indicators for you to see whether going through these lessons is beneficial or not. Finally, what happens? The overall experience that you have in your heart. Well, I think I heard so many lessons, about 13 of them. Has it done any good to me? That's what you have to think. Has it been useful to me in any way? I spent so many hours listening to it. But has it benefited to me? Is something which you get as a feeling in you. That feeling is yours. So with that, I'm going to conclude this session and wish you all a very, very nice year. And I'll get back to you when I'm ready with a reliable internet. And as soon as I complete whatever I need to do in India, because there's a lot of travel there, extensive. I'm going to be in South, as also Eastern India and Central India, and also Western India. So it's going to be a lot of travel for the next 2 months. And I will get back to you as soon as I'm ready. So till the time, thank you all for being with us today, and we'll get back later. Wishing you all the best. I'm going to unmute you all now. And any comments, any questions, we'll receive. Okay, I've unmuted all of you.
Guruji, this is Rajaram.
Yes.
I have a question about this night and day.